Every promise means nothing until you become the proof. Anybody can talk. Anybody can pitch. But when the lights come on, when the pressure is real, your standard, your effort, your performance, that's the only testimony the world believes. This ain't about words. This is about proof. Tonight, we ain't just talking standards. We're elevating them from promise to performance. When you strip everything down, when you silence all the noise, the truth always comes back to this: talk ends, proof begins. Everybody can talk. Everybody can stand in front of a crowd, in front of a locker room, in front of a team, in front of their family, and say what they're going to do. Everybody can make promises. Everybody can say, tomorrow I'm going to change. Tomorrow I'm going to commit. Tomorrow I'm going to work harder. Tomorrow I'm going to get disciplined. The words are easy. The pitch is easy. The sound of motivation is easy. But when that alarm clock goes off before the sun rises, when the weight of pressure sits heavy on your chest, when your body screams to quit, when your mind is begging for comfort, talk has no power. Talk can't save you. Talk doesn't prove anything. Proof is the only language that the world respects. Proof is the only thing that can testify on your behalf when you're not in the room. Proof is what shows up when opportunity meets preparation. Proof is the sweat on your shirt, the calluses on your hands, the scars on your body, the unshakable energy in your spirit. Proof is the difference between intention and execution. Proof is the evidence that you didn't just talk about it, you lived it. See, you have to understand something deep. The world has been fed so many empty promises, so many broken commitments, so many loud pitches with no follow through, that most people don't believe words anymore. They don't trust words anymore. The currency that carries weight is proof. It's the body of work. It's the consistency of your actions when nobody's watching. It's what you've built with discipline, what you've earned through suffering, what you've sustained through adversity. Talk paints a picture, but proof is the paintbrush, the strokes, the finished canvas. Talk writes a check, but proof is the deposit that makes it cash. Talk inspires in the moment, but proof creates legacy across generations. Every champion I've ever studied, every great man or woman who built something eternal, they didn't build it on speeches or declarations. They built it on proof. Muhammad Ali didn't just say he was the greatest. He trained, he fought, he sacrificed until the world had no choice but to believe. Michael Jordan didn't just talk about winning. He obsessed over practice, over details, overdoing it when nobody was watching. Kobe Bryant didn't just pitch the Mamba mentality. He lived it at 4 a.m. in an empty gym when his teammates were still asleep. Proof is not glamorous. Proof doesn't show up in the pitch. Proof shows up in the grind. Proof shows up in the sacrifices nobody applauds. Proof shows up when your back is against the wall and the easy option is to quit, but you refuse to surrender. Proof shows up when your body is tired, but your spirit says, give me one more rep, one more mile, one more day of excellence. And here's the brutal truth. People are tired of hearing your words. They've heard you talk before. They've heard you say you're going to change. They've heard you say you're committed. They've heard you promise you're going to stop wasting time. They've heard you say you're going to get disciplined, get fit, get consistent, get serious. But until you show proof, until you put action behind it, until you show evidence that backs up the claim, your words are just noise in the wind. Talk ends. Proof begins. Proof is the report card life hands you every single day. Proof is the performance that speaks louder than your intentions. Proof is the result that nobody can deny. You can't fake proof. You can't hide proof. You can't manipulate proof. It's either there or it's not. Every morning you wake up, life asks you the same question. Do you have proof today? Do you have proof you're committed? Do you have proof you're disciplined? Do you have proof you're locked into your purpose? Do you have proof that you won't quit when it gets hard? Because the moment adversity shows up, talk gets exposed. Talk gets stripped bare. When the storm comes, when the weight is heavy, when the game is on the line, talk disappears. The only thing left standing is proof. Proof that you prepared. Proof that you were consistent. Proof that you refused to be outworked. Proof that you sacrificed comfort for greatness. Proof that your actions always lined up with your words. And the thing about proof is this: it doesn't lie. Proof doesn't care about how motivated you sounded last week. Proof doesn't care about how emotional your speech was. Proof doesn't care about how excited you were when you wrote your goals down in a notebook. Proof doesn't care about the hype. Proof cares about the grind. Proof cares about what you did when nobody clapped. Proof cares about what you sacrificed when nobody noticed. Proof is silent but undeniable. It doesn't need an introduction. It doesn't need an explanation. Proof walks into a room and it speaks for itself. Proof is the respect you earn. Proof is the trust you build. Proof is the legacy you leave. Think about the greats. They didn't have to tell you who they were. You knew who they were because of proof. When Ray Lewis walked onto the field, he didn't have to convince you that he was the most intense, the most prepared, the most relentless. You knew it because you saw the work, you saw the energy, you saw the proof in every hit, in every play, in every moment he refused to be average. Proof doesn't need a pitch. Proof doesn't need marketing. Proof markets itself. Proof is undeniable. Proof is undefeated. So many people in this world are stuck because they've fallen in love with the pitch. They've fallen in love with the talk. They think if they just say it enough times, if they just hype themselves enough, if they just tell everybody what they're going to do, it's going to magically happen. But the reality is, words without proof are mountains. They don't build legacies. They don't transform lives. Proof is what does that. Proof is what makes people look at you differently. Proof is what separates you from the crowd. Proof is what elevates you from the level of average to the level of extraordinary. And the truth is, proof requires pain. Proof requires suffering. Proof requires discipline that most people will never accept. Proof demands you say no to things that everybody else says yes to. Proof demands you wake up earlier, stay up later, stay focused longer, grind harder, fight stronger. Proof demands you keep going when you don't feel like it. Proof demands you honor your commitments when your emotions have left. Proof demands you show up when nobody cares, when nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding. Proof is the price of greatness. Proof is the evidence of discipline. Proof is the receipt for sacrifice. That's why you can't play with this. You can't fake this. You can't shortcut this. Proof is earned every single day. Proof is earned in the darkness, in the silence, in the places where there's no camera, no audience, no applause. Proof is earned in sweat, in sacrifice, in resilience. Proof is earned when you put in work that nobody sees. So when the world finally does see, they have no choice but to believe. Proof is not given. Proof is not borrowed. Proof is not rented. Proof is owned. Proof is yours. Proof is the evidence that you didn't just talk about it. You lived it. You bled for it. You sacrificed for it. You became it. When you talk about greatness, when you talk about consistency, when you talk about living at a level most people only dream about, there comes a moment when you realize that feelings will betray you. Feelings will lie to you. Feelings will whisper comfort when you need discipline. Feelings will beg you to rest when you need to rise. Feelings will convince you to quit when you're standing one step away from a breakthrough. That's why champions, that's why leaders, that's why men and women who build legacies don't live by feelings. They live by standards. Standards over feelings every single day, in every single moment. Because standards don't change with the weather. Standards don't shift with your mood. Standards don't bend because you're tired or stressed or emotional. Standards are the unshakable foundation that holds you accountable when feelings try to take you off course. Every single one of us wakes up with a choice. Will I let my feelings dictate my effort? Or will I let my standards command my behavior? If you're honest with yourself, most of the mistakes, most of the regrets, most of the missed opportunities in your life came because you chose feelings over standards. You skipped a workout because you didn't feel like it. You procrastinated because you didn't feel motivated. You gave half effort because you didn't feel inspired. You let emotions run your day instead of letting discipline run your day. And then later, when the feeling passed, you look back and realized that moment cost you progress, cost you trust, cost you a step closer to your destiny. But when you live by standards, you eliminate that regret because standards don't ask how you feel. Standards don't ask if you're tired. Standards don't ask if you're motivated. Standards demand consistency. Standards demand execution. Standards demand proof. Look at the greatest performers in history. Do you think they felt like putting in the work every single day? Do you think Kobe Bryant felt like waking up at 4 in the morning and punishing his body through hours of training before practice even started? Do you think Tom Brady felt like eating the cleanest diet in sports, studying film until his eyes burned, keeping his body in peak condition when everybody else was celebrating? Do you think Ray Lewis felt like hitting the weight room after practice, running extra sprints, breaking his body down to rebuild it stronger? No. They didn't always feel like it, but they didn't give their feelings a vote. They gave their standards the vote. They set a standard so high, so unshakable, that feelings couldn't touch it. Their standards said, no matter what, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I operate. That's the difference between average and great. Average people live by feelings. Great people live by standards. Average people wake up and ask, how do I feel today? Great people wake up and declare, it doesn't matter how I feel today. My standard is my standard. Average people let their emotions dictate their discipline. Great people let their discipline dictate their emotions. Average people break their commitments when feelings shift. Great people honor their commitments no matter what feelings say. That's why average fades away and greats live forever, because standards outlast feelings. Standards outlast emotions. Standards outlast moods. You see, feelings are temporary. They're like waves. They rise, they fall, they crash, they fade. You can't trust them because they're not stable. You can't build greatness on something unstable. But standards are concrete. Standards are bedrock. Standards are immovable. When you set a standard and you commit to it, it becomes a law in your life. And when you honor that law over and over, day after day, it becomes who you are. You stop being someone who just tries. You become someone who is. That's the shift. That's when excellence becomes automatic. Not because you always feel like it, but because your standards make it automatic. And understand this. Your feelings are personal, but your standards are public. Your feelings only matter to you, but your standards impact everyone who counts on you. Your family doesn't care if you don't feel like being a provider today. Your teammates don't care if you don't feel like showing up today. Your children don't care if you don't feel like leading today. They need you to be consistent. They need you to be dependable. They need you to be disciplined. That's why you can't afford to live by feelings. You must live by standards, because standards serve more than you. Standards create trust. Standards create stability. Standards create respect. Standards create legacy. That's why leaders don't get the luxury of living by feelings. Leaders don't get to say, I don't feel like showing up today. Leaders don't get to say, I don't feel like giving my best today. Leaders don't get to say, I don't feel like holding myself accountable today. Leaders live by standards. Because when you lead by standards, you show people what it looks like to be consistent. You show people what it looks like to honor your commitments, even when it's inconvenient. You show people what it looks like to prioritize discipline over desire, purpose over comfort, sacrifice over ease. And when you do that, you elevate the standard of everyone around you. The standard is the bar you set for yourself. It's the line you refuse to cross downward. It's the expectation that says, no matter what happens, no matter how I feel, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is the level I operate at. And when you set a high standard, it forces you to rise. It forces you to stretch. It forces you to become more than your feelings ever wanted you to be. Because feelings want you to stay comfortable. Feelings want you to stay safe. Feelings want you to avoid pain. But standards demand growth. Standards demand sacrifice. Standards demand you embrace pain as the price of progress. Standards demand you push through feelings that would have broken the weaker version of you. You ever notice how easy it is to quit when you're led by feelings? You start a new routine. You're excited, you're motivated, you're fired up. Then 3 days later, you don't feel like it. You're tired, you're sore, you're frustrated. And so you stop. That's living by feelings. But when you live by standards, you don't stop just because the feelings changed. You keep going because the standard hasn't changed. That's why standards protect you from inconsistency. Standards protect you from laziness. Standards protect you from the trap of starting and stopping, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. Standards lock you in. Standards stabilize you. Standards make sure your progress compounds over time instead of resetting every time your feelings shift. And here's the truth: greatness is nothing more than small standards honored daily. It's not one big moment. It's not one big performance. It's not one big speech. It's daily standards executed relentlessly over years and years. It's doing the little things with excellence every single day, no matter how you feel. It's showing up on time every day. It's giving your best effort every day. It's keeping your word every day. It's honoring your commitments every day. It's pushing your limits every day. It's refusing to settle every day. It's living in a way that says, my standards will never bow to my feelings. When you live like that, you become dangerous. You become unstoppable because the enemy of greatness is inconsistency. And inconsistency lives in the realm of feelings. But consistency is born in the realm of standards. When you live by standards, you show up the same way on your worst day as you do on your best day. You show up with the same intensity when nobody is watching as when the whole world is watching. You show up with the same discipline when you're exhausted as when you're energized. That's what makes people trust you. That's what makes people respect you. That's what makes people follow you. Not because of how you feel, but because of the standard you refuse to compromise. So the question you have to ask yourself is simple: what's my standard? Not what's my dream, not what's my goal, not what's my intention. What's my standard? Because your standard is what you fall to when life gets hard. Your standard is what you default to when pressure hits. Your standard is what carries you when motivation disappears. And if your standard is low, if your standard is based on feelings, you will break every time. But if your standard is high, if your standard is untouchable, if your standard is non-negotiable, then you will rise every time. Consistency creates credibility. That's the heartbeat of greatness, the foundation of trust, the essence of leadership, the difference between a person who talks and a person who proves. Anybody can be great once. Anybody can deliver one good performance. Anybody can lock in for a short burst of energy, a short season of commitment, a short chapter of discipline. But true credibility is not built on moments. It is built on patterns. It is not built on flashes of greatness. It is built on years of discipline. It is not built on a single highlight. It is built on a lifestyle. Consistency is the silent testimony that says, I am who I say I am, not just today, not just tomorrow, but always. Think about the people you respect the most. You don't respect them because of what they did one time. You respect them because they showed up again and again and again with the same energy, the same discipline, the same commitment, the same standard. You respect them because you knew you could count on them. You respect them because they didn't just talk once, they lived it every single day. That's credibility. That's why consistency is powerful, because consistency proves character. Consistency proves reliability. Consistency proves trustworthiness. Consistency proves that your words are not just promises, but contracts signed with your actions. Credibility is not something you can buy. You can't fake it. You can't market it. You can't pitch it. Credibility is earned. And it's earned by showing up the same way over and over, when nobody expects it, when nobody demands it, when nobody rewards it. It's earned in the darkness, in the silence, in the routine. And it's not built in days. It's built in years. That's why consistency is so rare, because it requires endurance. It requires patience. It requires doing the right thing so many times that it becomes who you are, not just what you do. Most people fail not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have potential, not because they don't have opportunity, but because they lack consistency. They start strong, but they don't finish. They get motivated, but they don't sustain. They put in effort, but only when it's convenient. And then they wonder why credibility escapes them. They wonder why people don't trust their word. They wonder why nobody takes them seriously. It's because inconsistency destroys credibility. If you say one thing and do another, your credibility is gone. If you show up one day and disappear the next, your credibility is gone. If your energy rises and falls with your feelings, your credibility is gone. People don't believe what you say. They believe what you consistently show. Look at the greats. Look at someone like Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver football has ever seen. He wasn't respected because he had one great game. He wasn't respected because he had one great season. He was respected because for decades, he showed up with the same discipline, the same commitment, the same intensity. He ran routes the same way in practice as he did in the Super Bowl. He worked harder in the offseason than most worked in the season. That consistency made him credible. That credibility made him unstoppable. When he said he was the best, nobody questioned it because his consistency backed it up. Think about Michael Jordan. You didn't just believe in him because of a single shot. You believed in him because every single night, for years, he delivered. He was relentless. He was dependable. He was consistent. And because of that consistency, his credibility became untouchable. His teammates trusted him. His coaches trusted him. The fans trusted him. And even his opponents trusted him to be the killer they feared. That's what consistency does. It builds a reputation that nothing else can build. And here's the truth: consistency is not glamorous. Consistency is not exciting. Consistency is not dramatic. Consistency is boring. It's repetitive. It's the same thing day after day after day. And that's why so few people live consistently. Because they get bored. They want excitement. They want variety. They want something new. But greatness is not about new. Greatness is about the old, done so well, so consistently that it becomes extraordinary. Greatness is not about novelty. It's about mastery. And mastery comes only from consistency. You have to ask yourself, what do people see when they watch my life? Do they see someone who shows up only when it's easy? Or someone who shows up every time, no matter what? Do they see someone who makes promises but breaks them when it gets uncomfortable? Or someone who honors commitments even when it hurts? Do they see someone who is predictable in discipline or unpredictable in effort? Because credibility is built when people know what to expect from you, and what they expect is consistency. And consistency doesn't just build credibility with others, it builds credibility with yourself. That's even more powerful, because when you keep breaking promises to yourself, when you keep quitting on your own goals, when you keep choosing feelings over standards, you start to lose trust in yourself. You start to doubt your own word. You start to weaken your own confidence. And when you don't trust yourself, when you don't believe yourself, how can anybody else believe in you? That's why self-respect comes from consistency. That's why confidence comes from consistency. That's why inner strength comes from consistency. Every time you keep your word to yourself, every time you honor your standard, every time you execute, when you said you would, you build credibility with the person in the mirror. And when you trust yourself, there is nothing the world can do to stop you. Consistency is not about perfection. Nobody is perfect. Everybody stumbles. Everybody falls short. But consistency is about what you do most of the time. Consistency is about the majority of your days, the majority of your actions, the majority of your effort. Consistency is about never staying down. Consistency is about bouncing back quickly. Consistency is about refusing to let a bad day become a bad week become a bad month become a bad year. Consistency is resilience in motion. It's the relentless pursuit of alignment between your words and your actions. Credibility also demands accountability. You cannot be consistent without holding yourself accountable. You cannot be consistent without setting a standard and refusing to bend it. You cannot be consistent without having people in your life who call you out when you slip, who remind you of who you are, who won't let you settle. Accountability and consistency go hand in hand. One fuels the other. And when both are present, credibility becomes undeniable. When people know that no matter what happens, you will show up, you will deliver, you will honor your commitments, you will live your values, you will not compromise your standards, then your credibility becomes a weapon. Your credibility becomes your influence. Your credibility becomes your legacy. People follow credible leaders because they trust them. They invest in credible businesses because they believe them. They respect credible teammates because they can depend on them. Credibility is currency. And the only way to earn it is through consistency. This is why you can't afford to live inconsistent. Every time you break your standard, every time you skip the work, every time you let feelings dictate your actions, you weaken your credibility. You weaken the trust others have in you. You weaken the trust you have in yourself. And once credibility is broken, it is hard to rebuild. That's why you have to guard it. That's why you have to protect it. That's why you have to fight for it with consistency every single day. The truth is, people are always watching. They may not say it, they may not tell you, but they are always watching. They are watching how you handle adversity. They are watching how you handle success. They are watching how you handle pressure. They are watching how you handle disappointment. And every time they watch, they are judging your consistency. They are asking, can I trust this person? Can I depend on this person? Can I believe this person? And your consistency is the answer. When you live consistently, you don't need to convince anybody of who you are. You don't need to pitch yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. Your consistency becomes your proof. Your consistency becomes your brand. Your consistency becomes your reputation. And when that reputation is strong, when that credibility is solid, doors open, opportunities come, influence expands. Because in a world full of empty promises and inconsistent effort, consistency is rare and credibility is priceless. Sacrifice separates the great. That's the line. That's the truth. That's the difference most people don't want to accept. Everybody says they want greatness. Everybody says they want success. Everybody says they want to live at a higher level. But when the bill for greatness shows up, when the price tag of excellence is laid on the table, most people fold. They love the dream, but they hate the sacrifice. They love the vision, but they run from the cost. And that's why so few become great, because greatness is expensive and the currency is sacrifice. You can't cheat it. You can't shortcut it. You can't negotiate it. Every ounce of greatness you want requires an ounce of sacrifice. Every standard you want to elevate requires something you must give up. Every level you want to rise to requires a level of comfort you must leave behind. That's why sacrifice separates the great, because average people will always choose comfort, but great people will always choose sacrifice. Average people ask, what can I keep? Great people ask, what can I give up? Average people hold on to convenience. Great people let go of convenience for the sake of calling, for the sake of destiny, for the sake of purpose. The truth about sacrifice is that it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, it's not sacrifice. If it doesn't stretch you, it's not sacrifice. If it doesn't force you to give up something you love, something you enjoy, something that feels good in the moment, it's not sacrifice. Sacrifice is giving up what you want now for what you want most. Sacrifice is trading temporary pleasure for permanent legacy. Sacrifice is laying down comfort so you can pick up calling. And the reason it separates the great is because very few are willing to hurt now so they can shine later. Very few are willing to give up what feels good for what lasts. Very few are willing to put down the things that bring ease so they can pick up the things that bring excellence. Think about every legend, every icon, every person who changed the world, every person whose name will be remembered long after they're gone. They all paid in sacrifice. Muhammad Ali said, "At best, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." He sacrificed comfort so he could build credibility. Kobe Bryant sacrificed sleep, sacrificed parties, sacrificed relaxation so he could sharpen his craft, so he could live in the gym while others lived in the club. Michael Jordan sacrificed relationships, sacrificed ease, sacrificed normal life to obsess over winning. Ray Lewis sacrificed his body, sacrificed years of pain, sacrificed every ounce of comfort, so when the game was on the line, nobody outworked him, nobody outlasted him. Sacrifice separates the great. But it's not just about athletes. Look at entrepreneurs, inventors, leaders, men and women who changed industries, changed nations, changed lives. They sacrificed time. They sacrificed money. They sacrificed comfort. They sacrificed popularity. They sacrificed safety. Martin Luther King Jr. sacrificed his freedom, sacrificed his comfort, sacrificed his safety, sacrificed his very life for the dream of justice. Steve Jobs sacrificed stability, sacrificed relationships, sacrificed ease to build something the world had never seen before. Nelson Mandela sacrificed decades of his life in prison so his people could walk free. Sacrifice is always the road to greatness. There is no other way. And here's what people don't realize. Sacrifice is not a one-time event. It's not something you do once and you're done. Sacrifice is daily. Sacrifice is ongoing. Sacrifice is every day choosing purpose over comfort, discipline over desire, long-term over short-term, calling over convenience. Sacrifice is saying no when everyone else is saying yes. Sacrifice is saying yes when everyone else is saying no. Sacrifice is missing the party so you can be in the gym. Sacrifice is missing the comfort so you can study the craft. Sacrifice is missing the easy path so you can take the hard one that builds character, resilience, and legacy. People think sacrifice is loss. It's not. Sacrifice is investment. You're giving up something smaller so you can gain something bigger. You're laying down something temporary so you can build something eternal. You're trading what feels good now for what will feel great forever. That's why sacrifice is not something to avoid. It's something to embrace. Because every sacrifice you make, when aligned with your purpose, when aligned with your vision, multiplies into something greater down the road. Sacrifice is the seed. Greatness is the harvest. Sacrifice is the foundation. Legacy is the building. Sacrifice is the suffering. But glory is the reward. The challenge is that sacrifice doesn't give immediate results. That's why people quit. That's why people give up. They sacrifice for a week, a month, maybe a year. But when they don't see the payoff, they fold. But greatness doesn't show up overnight. Greatness shows up after years of sacrifice. Greatness shows up after years of choices nobody sees, Nobody applauds. Nobody celebrates. Greatness shows up after years of putting in the work when nobody notices. That's why sacrifice is so painful. It asks you to trust the unseen, to trust the process, to trust that what you're giving up now will create what you desire later. That's faith. And that's why most people quit. They don't have the patience to let sacrifice bear fruit. Sacrifice also isolates you. Because when you choose sacrifice, you automatically separate yourself from the crowd. You automatically become different. You automatically stand apart. Because most people are chasing comfort, and you're chasing calling. Most people are chasing ease, and you're chasing excellence. Most people are chasing pleasure, and you're chasing purpose. And that means you won't fit in. That means you won't always be understood. That means you won't always be celebrated. Sacrifice is lonely. Sacrifice is misunderstood. Sacrifice is mocked. But that's why it separates the great, because the crowd will always mock what they don't have the courage to do. And sacrifice is not just about what you give up, it's about what you protect. Sacrifice protects your standard. Sacrifice protects your credibility. Sacrifice protects your legacy. When you sacrifice the distraction, you protect the focus. When you sacrifice the bad habit, you protect the discipline. When you sacrifice the easy road, you protect the character. Every sacrifice builds a wall around your greatness, a shield around your purpose, a fortress around your destiny. That's why sacrifice is not just about pain, it's about protection. So many people want both. They want greatness and comfort. They want excellence and ease. They want discipline and indulgence. They want legacy and leisure. But you can't have both. Something has to die for something else to live. Something has to be sacrificed for something else to be built. If you're not willing to give up, you're not ready to go up. If you're not willing to lay down, you're not ready to rise up. If you're not willing to let go, you're not ready to take hold. That's the law of sacrifice. The beauty of sacrifice is that it changes you. It strengthens you. It molds you. It takes the soft parts of you and makes them hard. It takes the weak parts of you and makes them strong. It takes the selfish parts of you and makes them disciplined. Sacrifice is transformation. Every time you sacrifice, you kill the weaker version of yourself and you give birth to the stronger version. Every sacrifice is a death and a rebirth. That's why sacrifice is sacred. It's not just about what you lose, it's about who you become. And the truth is, sacrifice never really ends. Because as you grow, as you rise, as you elevate, the sacrifices only get bigger. The price only gets higher. The demand only gets greater. But that's the beauty of it. Because every level of greatness requires a new level of sacrifice. Every elevation requires something else you must leave behind. And if you're not willing to pay it, you can't stay there. That's why greatness is not just about talent, not just about skill, not just about opportunity. It's about sacrifice. The ones who are willing to give up the most are the ones who rise the highest. The ones who are willing to endure the most are the ones who last the longest. The ones who are willing to suffer the most are the ones who shine the brightest. Sacrifice separates the great. Legacy is proof, not pitch. Legacy is not what you said you would do. It's not what you promised. It's not the speeches you gave. It's not the hype you created. Legacy is what's left behind when the talking is done, when the lights go out, when your time on this earth is over. Legacy is the proof that you lived what you said you believed. Legacy is the evidence that you stood for something greater than yourself. Legacy is the echo of your actions, not the memory of your intentions. And the harsh truth is this: nobody will remember your pitch, but they will never forget your proof. Legacy is not built in words, it's built in deeds. Legacy is not built in promises, it's built in proof. You don't write your legacy with your mouth. You write it with your hands, with your heart, with your consistency, with your sacrifice. You write it with the life you lived every single day when nobody was watching. Legacy is the trail of proof you leave behind. Proof that you worked. Proof that you cared. Proof that you led. Proof that you refused to quit. Proof that you lifted others. Proof that you gave your best. Proof that you stood unshaken in a world full of compromise. That's legacy. And here's the truth most people don't want to face. Your legacy is being written right now. Not one day in the future. Not someday when you feel ready. Not when you think you've achieved enough. Right now, every choice you make, every standard you keep, every sacrifice you give, every execution you deliver is building your legacy. Your actions today are tomorrow's proof. Your consistency today is tomorrow's credibility. Your discipline today is tomorrow's testimony. You can't wait until the end to build a legacy because by then it's too late. Your legacy is built in the grind, in the daily discipline, in the standards you honor when nobody claps for you. The difference between pitch and proof is permanence. A pitch disappears when the words fade, but proof lasts forever. Proof gets carved into history. Proof lives in the stories people tell about you long after you're gone. Proof is the thing your children and grandchildren point to when they say, "This is what greatness looks like." Proof is the foundation that outlives you, that carries your name forward, that keeps your spirit alive in the lives of others. You can't pass down promises. You can only pass down proof. Think about the names we remember. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't leave us with just a pitch. He left us with proof. Proof that he was willing to march. Proof that he was willing to sacrifice. Proof that he was willing to stand in the face of hatred and never bow to fear. Muhammad Ali didn't leave us with just words. He left us with proof. Proof in the ring. Proof in his discipline. Proof in his courage to stand against injustice, even when it cost him everything. Mother Teresa didn't leave us with just speeches. She left us with proof. Proof in every life she touched, every person she comforted, every sacrifice she made for the poor and forgotten. That's legacy. Proof, not pitch. And here's what makes legacy so powerful. You don't get to decide it in words. People decide your legacy based on the proof they witnessed. You can say you were disciplined, but was there proof? You can say you were committed, but was there proof? You can say you were selfless, but was there proof? You can say you lived with purpose, but was there proof? Because people don't carry your words forward. They carry your proof forward. They carry the evidence of the life you lived, the standards you kept, the sacrifices you made, the way you treated others, the way you showed up when it mattered most. That's why legacy is not about the pitch. It's about the proof. And the thing about proof is that it compounds. It builds over time. Every day you add a brick. Every choice, you lay another stone. Every standard you honor adds weight to your foundation. And when you live that way for years, for decades, your proof becomes undeniable. Your proof becomes unshakable. Your proof becomes legacy. But if you keep starting and stopping, if you keep pitching and never proving, your foundation is weak, your impact is shallow, your legacy is empty. Proof is what makes the difference. Legacy is not built in grand moments. It's built in small moments. It's not built in the big speeches. It's built in the daily actions. It's not built in the highlight reel. It's built in the behind, the scenes discipline. Legacy is the sum total of thousands of days where you chose proof over pitch, discipline over desire, sacrifice over comfort, consistency over laziness. Legacy is proof stacked on proof, day after day, until it becomes undeniable. And legacy doesn't just live in what you accomplish, it lives in who you impact. Because proof is not just about what you do for yourself, it's about what you do for others. Legacy is not selfish, it's selfless. It's not just the trophies you earn, it's the people you lift. It's not just the success you achieve, it's the lives you transform. The proof of your legacy is not in your accolades. It's in the people who are better because you lived. It's in the family you raised, the teammates you inspired, the strangers you helped, the generations you influenced. Legacy is not what you keep, it's what you give. It's not what you build for yourself, it's what you leave for others. That's why legacy is bigger than you. That's why it demands more than you. That's why it requires proof, not pitch. Because legacy is not about being remembered for what you said. It's about being remembered for what you did. Legacy is not about being known for what you promised. It's about being known for what you delivered. Legacy is not about being celebrated for what you dreamed. It's about being celebrated for what you built. And legacy is tested when you're gone. Because once you're no longer here to talk, to pitch, to explain, the only thing left is proof. Proof is what speaks when you cannot. Proof is what lives when you don't. Proof is what continues when you stop. And if there's no proof, there's no legacy. If there's no evidence, there's no impact. If there's no fruit, there's no memory. You can talk your whole life, but when it's over, the world will only ask one question: where's the proof? That's why you can't afford to live shallow. You can't afford to waste years pitching without proving. You can't afford to let your words outpace your actions. Because every day you delay proof, you delay legacy. Every day you choose pitch over proof, you choose emptiness over impact. Every day you settle for talking instead of proving. You settle for being forgotten instead of being remembered. And proof is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's humble. Sometimes it's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's in the consistency of showing up for your family. It's in the integrity of keeping your word. It's in the courage of standing for what's right. It's in the humility of serving others. Proof doesn't always scream, but it always lasts. Proof doesn't always shine in the moment, but it always glows in the future. Proof is the quiet force that builds legacies louder than any pitch ever could. That's why legacy demands focus, because distractions will always try to pull you into the pitch. The world loves words. The world loves hype. The world loves noise, but noise fades. Proof remains. Legacy is not in the noise. It's in the work. Legacy is not in the spotlight. It's in the shadows. Legacy is not in the temporary. It's in the eternal. And you only get there by living a life of proof every day, no matter who's watching, no matter how you feel, no matter what it costs.